Making new discoveries and finding treasures in the furthest reaches of space involves the occasional risk. Your Carrack and crew will be ready for anything. With an ironclad military pedigree, no exploit is too audacious. For all of the wonder the unknown offers, even the most intrepid explorer needs a place to call their own. With the Carrack, your home travels with you, everywhere and anywhere. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Steve, otherwise known as Pin, and today we're going to take a look at the mighty Anvil Carrack. This ship is extremely popular for good reason. It has won hearts and minds across the verse. It is rather large, it has excellent facilities, it has excellent future potential. We have a rover bay, a scout bay, a med bay, modules for the cargo area to swap in and out for future gameplay. We have drone bay, we have two bridges. This thing is an absolute machine and possibly the king of exploration. Now, this video is long because I feel like when I was putting it together, if I tried to rush it, I would have missed the substantial amount of detail that can be found on board this vessel. We are going to go through the entirety of this ship, room by room, deck by deck, discussing, theorizing, and just generally enjoying the tremendous achievement that the Anvil Carrack is from CIG. There will be a lot of theory craft because I feel it's fitting. You know, we've been sold a dream, so let's not exploit that a little bit. Let's talk about it. And overall, I will sort of point out what I think is excellent, what I think isn't excellent, which to be honest isn't much. This ship is very, 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 very cool, and like I said, very popular amongst the fellow citizens of the verse. Okay guys, so to understand this ship a little bit better, I think it's important to ask some questions, and two of those in particular. The first one being, what is Carrack? Okay, what is it? The second one being, why is Carrack? Why was it built? Why was it introduced? What's its purpose? If we can understand those two basic questions about the Carrack and get some background history, a small character statement if you will, that may help us when we come to our large amounts of theory crafting in trying to understand why it's important, why it's so well loved, and how all the functions on board the vessel are going to come into play in the future when this ship really will come into its own. So what we'll do now is we will go through some of the lore of the ship. There is a lot, so I'm going to try and pick and choose which I feel is relevant, and there are some aspects of this ship that I found very intriguing. It does have an illustrious career, this vessel. So let's begin with a little bit of lore for the Anvil Carrack. The year is 2815. A UEEN cruiser, the Caraway, is out investigating a bizarre transmission from an asteroid field in the system. The ship failed to return and was destroyed in an accident, and all crew were lost. This prompted the Admiralty to build a true exploration ship instead of using warships. Enter the Anvil Carrack. The Killian system 2822. The Carrack has been built and is ready to perform duties. Constructed in a shroud of secrecy, it sparked many rumours among the civilian populace. The Carrack remained in military contract for 18 months, which ended in 2825, and was highly sought after by the civilian market with over 5,000 requests for a civilian variant. However, the Admiralty denied Anvil the right to do so. The first Carrack was designated R11 and was deployed to the Killian system. Its mission? Reached the extremities of the system to establish an early warning system built by the UEEN to increase protection on a military installation on MacArthur, mapping 37 points in the process. Okay, with that snippet of information, we've managed to answer two of the questions about the Carrack. What is Carrack? Carrack is designed to be an explorer from the ground up because it was costing the Admiralty dearly by sending warships into unknown areas and losing them in accidents where the Caraway was found with all hands lost. Okay, the why is the need for a purpose-built explorer to traverse the verse and do the jobs that these large warships couldn't complete. For whatever reason, they just weren't up to and suited for the task. Now this is where the Carrack really does come into its own, because obviously it's been built from the ground up to be an explorer. It's relatively well maintained and used by a small number of crew. It's large enough to accommodate that crew and facilitate all of their needs whilst performing all of the duties required at the time by the military. So that kind of gives us a background to the might that is the Anvil Carrack, and it opens a door into the future of what we can expect this ship to achieve and perform, which is exciting, I think you'll find, because like I've said, I really do feel now that we have some history behind the vessel, we can sort of extrapolate that information and, you know, theorize on just how effective it's going to be. Okay, so let's cover some of the basics. It's a expedition ship, 4 to 6 man crew, double it, that's my rule, 456 SCU. It has a length of 126.5 meters, a beam of 76.5, height 30 meters, combat speed 208 meters per second, maximum speed 1236 meters per second. Okay, what we're going to do now, guys, is begin our journey through the monster that is the Carrack. And we'll start with the rover bay, which is arguably going to be quite important for expedition forward stroke exploration roles. Okay, so here we are in the large rover bay. Now you can get 2 rovers in here, I think 3 tumbrils, possibly 4. I haven't tried it. We could get plenty of Gravlev bikes in here. You'll notice that it's really, really nicely lit. Love the steel grated floors. How they've managed to get them and not flicker all over the place like in other games is beyond me. You'll notice there's cargo nets on the side of the wall as well, which is a nice touch for additional storage. It is the only entry point to the ship while on the ground. There is no other elevators. We do have to use the ramp, which is a little bit of an annoyance. I would have liked to have an extra entry point to the ship, but overall I can live with it. Most people can. Through the door on the left, you will notice there's a service ladder, which is an excellent addition to have this, because I'm thinking at any point, if the ship was to take damage for whatever reason, we're going to need engineer, possibly security, even health professionals running in and through the ship unhindered. And this service ladder, I think, will play quite an important role in the future if certain systems are knocked out. If we lose power for whatever reason to the various elevators on the ship, then we still have access to all areas of the deck, and that is something that we don't need to worry about. When we go through the rover bay, we come to this corridor, and you'll see that there are 2 doors flush, and then we go through to the cargo area at our 12 o'clock. So what we will do first is we'll take a right, and here we have the docking collar access, and that is flanked either side by armor and undersuit storage, which is a very nice touch, because if we need to EVA and we're not properly dressed for the occasion, we will have access to get changed into the right equipment depending on where we are and how the atmosphere is. If it's hot, we can have some mining suits in there. There are various mining suits that will suit certain temperatures, so that is a very nice touch. Also, it's a very nice way to get out the ship when we are in fact in space without having to rely on that rather relatively slow ramp at the front of the ship. Opposite that room, we have the elevator, which is a shortcut to various other decks. It does not, however, take us to the cartography deck. Moving on, we come to the modules, which at the moment on the Carrack are purely cargo. Now these in the future will be swapped out, and I've had some ideas about this place and space on this ship. I can see a lot of potential here. There's talk of farming, research labs, things of that nature, which does sound intriguing. But towards the end of the video, when we go through a walk around, I will discuss that in more detail, but there is certainly a lot of potential here in the cargo area. Moving through, we come to this area, okay? We have the main elevator located at the end. Either side, we have some more suits and a built-in armory and weapon rack, which is very nice to have at the bottom of the ship, near the ramp where you might need it the most. So that has been well planned, in my opinion. We have the armor suits stowage on the left there. Towards the rear, we have access to the turret. This is the same on both sides that flank the main elevator. Again, love the detail and lighting in here. Very cool, very crisp. Still keeps that military feel. As we know, it was a military ship for a long time before the civilian market got their hands on it. And then we have the weapons locker. So we could have a contingent of Marines on here, easily, well equipped and easy to get access either via the docking collar and or the ramp. So that could be useful in the future. Although we're an expedition ship, there's no reason why we couldn't be transporting, I don't know, space marines or even bounty hunters. Who knows? But it's a good idea to have the access so readily available on the deck that's closest to the exit. So that's a nice touch in my opinion, because it does look really, really, really cool. Very well thought out, I think, and it will almost certainly become a useful feature in the future. Moving through that room then, we do come along to the aft turret. Now, if you're familiar with the Anvil Valkyrie, it's the same sort of setup. It's a lot more tidier in here. There's no cables or anything to trip over. It's all tucked away nice and tight. Not a lot of interest in here. We do just have the one turret, of course. Again, the lighting letting you know that if you're running to that turret, something is wrong. You know, red sort of screams anger. It kind of gives you that combat feel, like something's about to happen. So nice little touches there. There are some hold bars as well, which sort of stop people falling over. Okay, so making our way back, this is the main elevator, which we'll use to get to all decks of the ship. That is the main point of that elevator. It gives us access to every single deck on the ship. Deck 2 then, the habitation deck. We arrive at the elevator, doors open, and we are greeted by this monstrous corridor system. We are actually at the back of the medical bay, which is excellent that this ship has one, and I would argue all ships of this size should have a medical bay. Again, it is flanked by some very long, wide, well detailed corridors. Again, just the steel grating on the floor, how that doesn't clip into anything is brilliant. Very nicely roomed as well, very nicely spaced. Plenty of room for people to run past each other in an emergency. I can't see people getting stuck. Plenty of room to roll maybe medical trolleys down there, gurneys. I haven't tried it because there's no gurney on board yet, but I'm hoping at some point we might be able to roll the beds out. When the two corridors converge, we're brought to this area. So this is the front of the medical room, and as you can see, very nicely lit here, very nice and white. We have a door on the right, medical bay on the left, and then the corridor peels off to the right, takes us to the habitation areas of the ship. I do like the fact that there's ample room to manoeuvre to and from the med bay without much hindrance. I think that's quite an important aspect of having a med bay. Easy access is obviously time saves lives. Going through in the med bay then, we are greeted by the decontamination zone. Obviously this is going to be very important for when we're out and about and getting covered in contagions. We don't really want to bring that in to anyone that's in the med bay. So again, very nice touch. Look at the detailing in the tiles for that particular decontamination. I do think it looks excellent. Moving in then, we can see we are greeted by an O2 tank, two of them on the left, because patients might need oxygen. Okay, we have a bed on the left, we have a bed on the right, we have a doctor's office, we have a storage room, and right at the back we have I would say an MRI scanning bed. So that is going to be the most important bed on the ship, the central bed, because it's going to allow us to heal more substantial wounds and injuries, where the other two are going to be more sort of for your minor illnesses, trips, bumps and falls, I would have thought. On the left, we have the storage room, which throws up a few questions, because as you can see, there is fauna in here, which brings an interesting aspect to the ship, in my opinion. Are we going to be able to sort of keep plants we've discovered in here, and maybe analyse said plants and fauna for medical properties? Because they've got it here. That would be a nice touch, while we're out on our expeditions, if we find something of interest and then able to translate that into medical supplies or new compounds that we could sell to medical companies. Cash, money. So that did intrigue me, and it's an area of the ship I think is overlooked. Small details I try to capture and take note. So I thought that was interesting. We also have plenty of medical supplies here. Can't get access to the cupboards at the moment. There is a microscope which looks like it's holding the smartphone. And again, plenty of oxygen, because if there is an emergency or something of that nature, I imagine that those O2 bottles will come in super useful. After all, we're 1,000 years in the future, but we don't have gills yet. Well, depends for what part of the country you're from, but most of us don't have gills. To the right of the medical room, we then approach the doctor's office. As you can see, there's 2 seats and 2 monitors there, and a nice clear window so that the doctor and maybe the chief medical officer are able to monitor that patient on a 24-hour basis if needs be, or working in conjunction together. Who knows, but I do know that it's a good idea to have the ability to have 2 people in there to split the workload if there is a terminal case of injury amongst one of the crew members. Always a good thing. Again, more storage, another microscope holding a smartphone, and of course the main bed itself, which is also very, very useful as a spawn point, as a place. If we die, we can regenerate here. It's going to save a lot of hassle. If you're in a crew and you've sent your scout ship out, the scout ship gets killed, he isn't going to have to travel billions and billions of miles or whatever it might be to get back to you. He can, in fact, respawn here, which is going to be super useful. And inside, again, look at the detail. Something that I just thought looked amazing and wanted to include it, because I think there's a lot in this ship that gets overlooked. So it's incredible, the amount of detail in this ship. And arguably, I think this whole medical bay is a huge selling point for most people, because, I mean, it's just awesome. It caters for everything. You can respawn here. It has a ton of practical uses. The lighting, the detailing, it's all bright white, kind of giving you that feel that, yes, this is a mini hospital or health clinic on board this ship, which is always a nice touch and a relaxing thing to have on board. Exiting the medical bay, we have this long corridor with the elevator from the cargo area just behind the rover bay. That's that elevator. It's one of the quickest ways to the habitation deck. We have this long corridor. On the left, we have the sort of recreation crew quarters area. You'll notice there's a space pool table there, and yeah, I can see some fun being had with that particular pool table. On the right, we have a dining area, forward stroke galley, for the crew, where they're going to be eating, by the looks of things, just basic chow. But, you know, you can't have comfort everywhere, so it's very cool in here. And it gives me, I kind of feel like Bishop from Aliens should be walking around somewhere in this area. That's the kind of sci-fi vibe that this particular room gives me, you know. And I expect a xenomorph to be bursting out of someone's chest, but you know what? It's okay, because the med bay's around the corner. But it is very, very nice in here. Nice window at the back as well, so the crew can get some sort of orientation as to where the vessel is at any one time. 6 seats there. We have basic cooking facilities, I would say. We have a running sink, microwave, maybe an oven. So everything is, food-wise, is catered for within this particular room. We have the nice sort of singular light, projecting that light above the table. And when you leave, there's that really bright light here that's sort of, okay, back to work, wake up, it's time to get cracking. In the recreation room, it's the crew quarters itself, a little bit more chilled, a little bit more mellow. Notice the coffee cup that someone's left there. I don't know who done that, but I would throw them out this space without a helmet, into space without a helmet. Use a coaster at least. I mean, you're an animal. What's wrong with you? But overall, very soft, very sort of relaxing vibe in here. Not a lot in terms of things to look at. I mean, it's just the pool table, and pretty much that's it. So it is a big area. There is enough room here to congregate. 6 crew members. I'm going to say 12 because someone has to sleep at some point. So going through, we reach the crew living area, sleeping quarters, sorry. And you can see there's 2 stacked bunk beds and a sofa that looks more comfortable than the beds themselves, in my opinion. That sofa, you know you want to lay down that leather. You know you do. You know you want to take a nap on that leather sofa. Arguably, that's probably the most comfortable seat on the ship, because the ones around the dining table do not look particularly comfortable. But even the detail of that sofa, look at how the leather crinkles. It's incredible. Incredible touch to have. Towards the rear then we have a separate bed there with some stowage lockers. Now I imagine that is going to belong to someone that's a little bit higher up in the rank. He or she gets their own personal sleeping area. Fight amongst yourselves for that one. Going through, we've reached the crew shower facility with some nice mirrors. You know, nice and big, a sort of trough sink with all the amenities there and ablutions and everything that you could possibly need. Very roomy. Wouldn't be too crowded in here. Does have a military feel to it. There are some places I've visited in the military that have this kind of stainless steel, cold sort of vibe going on. So it does kind of give it that little bit of military vibe, definitely captured within this, especially with the trough stainless steel sort of sink. That definitely takes me back. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, everything is simple in this ship, but effective. Okay, the other end we do get, of course, the toilet. Now, the amount of times I get comments going, "Oh, why do we need toilets? Blah blah blah." Look, at the end of the day, if the toilets weren't in, people would moan. Now they are in, people are moaning. Better to have them than not to have them. It's a space sim. It simulates. You're going to need it for hygiene. Hygiene will have an effect in the future in the game, so it's good to have it. It's nice to know that the crew are catered for in every way. As you can see, there's shelves here, there's folded towels. It is going to be a useful mechanic, I imagine. We'll see. But there's some things that I did notice, like underneath these storage bins there are a bag of tools for some reason, in case the toilet breaks. Who knows? Okay, so let's exit the habitation area for the crew and then wandering to the captain's dorm, which is located just before the bridge, as you can see there at the end. So he gets his own office and ensuite, which is nice. Now this is, I would say, a fairly cozy area for the captain to be. He or she is going to enjoy it in here, I think. In terms of just comfort, it's not horrible. It is, I would say, more decorated than other areas of the ship. My only complaint would be I would like to see the captain's desk just raised a little bit, just to project a little bit more authority towards the crew. But other than that, it's not an Origin 600i by any stretch, but it is particularly comfortable in here for the captain. I can't see any particular grievances. Chessboard, champagne tray for when you find those jump points and maybe you want to celebrate, then you've got everything you need here. Various storage bins, and sort of a chest of drawers. So there is plenty here for the captain to survive comfortably. As you can see, there's 2 monitors and that large window at the back, so he can have an inkling of where exactly the vessel is at any one time. Like some areas of the crew also have those windows. I think it's a nice touch. Behind the monitors as well, you'll notice there seems to be some sort of built-in speaker system, I'm assuming, and a built-in monitor into the desk itself. So Plenty to do for the captain, plenty of logs to access, etc. All at his fingertips, while nicely lit, fairly spacious, and yeah, pretty luxurious for the captain. And this is the view you'll get as captain, sitting behind your Carrack. Pretty nice place to sit, I think. I can't see any reason why this would be an uncomfortable place to sit. Let's leave it at that. So everything the captain could possibly need is here in his room, in his dorm. He does get his own sleeping quarters, as you can see. Nothing extravagant here. A basic bunk with a luggage container, 2 doors that operate to get in and out. Obviously, he has his own sort of clothing wardrobe there, 2 more monitors, an ensuite with a toilet and shower. So the captain is absolutely well catered for, and he or she will not be in any sort of discomfort that might put him out of shape. Again, very sort of basic stainless steel sink. Plants a nice touch. All the amenities, ablutions, toiletries that you could possibly need, all located in a nice, easy way for the captain to enjoy his voyage. Next up, we head towards the bridge, and this will take us through to the lower section of the bridge, which is split into 2. And as we enter, we have an elevator on the left, which will take us to the top half of the deck of the bridge, and straight through you'll see the 3 seats that sort of hang from the ceiling and rotate when you need to get in and out of them, so we can have 3 people down here, which is going to be useful. Pilot, maybe a co-pilot, and navigator possibly, or a flight engineer. However you want to work it, it's your ship, you figure it out. Plenty of servers here. I imagine this is where all the blades are going to be placed when we get those, so we can operate turrets and things without either having NPCs or human crew. Ideally though, I would like the ship to be crewed. 6-man crew, I think it can be done. So pretty spacious in here, excellent view. We just have those 4 protruding sort of nose struts on the front of the ship, and yeah, looks like a very nice place to sit for long periods of time. You can see it uses a HOSAS system, and the intricate detail of the buttons, those switches, I really want to just flick them. Like, I really want to pull those 2-way switches. So we have various trim dials on the HOSAS systems as well, and every seat is equipped with multiple MFDs, which is going to be useful for coordination, etc. So this is from the pretty much the very nose of the vessel. Looking up, we can see the top bridge encompassed by various struts at different angles, but overall the view is pretty impressive. No major obstructions in the Carrack. Again, we have some more of the server access and a panel that opens for components or basic repairs. I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but all very interesting stuff in the lower bridge. Going up the elevator then, we arrive at the top half of the bridge, and we have 2 more flight stations and of course like a mini nav table in the middle, or maybe an operations room where we will be planning our various voyages, altering course. It's very nice up here. I prefer the top deck. It is very cool looking, and we do have a command station here. Now, we don't get all the same sort of MFDs as the pilot would have, but you can operate the ship from this station, which I find will become very useful. If your pilot of this particular ship is the best pilot, then you might want to send him out in your Pisces or whatever vessel you have chosen to place in the scout bay and take control yourself. So it could be very useful. Again, it could be very useful if the ship takes damage and we need to take control for whatever reason. We have the ability to do so. Again, we have this plotting table, if you like, sort of a real 3-dimensional holographic globe, which will be useful for plotting courses and all that good stuff, marking jump points, planning routes, and also giving us the ability to coordinate with other vessels in the fleet, perhaps. So essentially, everything that we need to operate the ship effectively can be found within the 2 decks of the bridge. So that's extremely handy. And again, the detail in this ship is something else, to be honest. CIG really are starting to nail these ships, because I just get in some of them and they blow me away. So we have the 2 flight stations here, as previously mentioned. Now, I think this one is most likely the flight engineer one, I think. And I know that this particular seat operates the top turret located on the very tippity top of the ship. So that is an important station, and it's easy to get to, and ideally you would want someone here at all times. Very important to have that manned, I would have thought. Okay, moving through then, we're greeted by the elevator and another door that takes us through to this extremely long corridor, which takes us all the way down towards the scout bay. Now, on the left and right, you can see this red sort of tinted lights coming through, indicating that there are in fact multiple escape pods located here, which is going to be extremely useful. Again, very well situated for the crew. Should things go awry, they have easy access to run and grab these. Not so much for the crew on the bottom floor of the bridge, but still close enough that they have a fighting chance. Down on the left then of this large corridor, we have the drone bay. Now this is an interesting area, and when we come to do the walkthrough, we will go into more detail about my theories and discuss that in a bit more detail. Opposite that, we do have the repair station, which is where I imagine your flight engineer or your engineer, whoever it might be, is going to spend a lot of time. And I noticed this fault opposite the repair station, and it seems to be spitting out sparks. So I'm not entirely sure who my engineer is, but he is going to get sacked. In his area, let's say, you'll find a sort of workbench with various tools for repairs, maintenance, all of that good stuff that a large ship is going to need to function on a day-to-day business while you're out doing your various patrols and expeditions. This is going to be handy. It could even be used to repair the drones. I would have thought so. What we're going to get to repair here remains fairly unknown, but I would like to guess that it'd be things like components, weapons, armor, you know, all that good stuff that we space nerds enjoy. So it's good to know that that's on board. He's got plenty of room to operate in here. It's well lit, especially the workbench. Not so keen on the red in here, like it's almost a state of emergency, so that's one thing I would change. Opposite that then, we do have, of course, the drone bay. Now this is going to be a very intricate and interesting part of the ship when it eventually gets, well, the game as a whole gets drones. It will be interesting to see how this all plays out. What kind of drones? Well, I've had a few thoughts, okay, but I won't start that yet. We'll save that till towards the end. But things like repair drones I could see being used. We know that the Vulcans are going to have repair drones. Why not this one? Maybe salvage drones. So there's a lot of potential in this area. The detail again is just superb with the cabling and like the steel pipes running under the floor. We have 2 drone operator seats in this area, essentially giving the operator basically becoming the pilot of the drone to steer, coordinate, grab, snatch, whatever it might be, brake. They will be operated from this station. How they communicate with the drones, I have no idea, but I imagine that it's all well thought out and beyond my brain box. If I had to hazard a guess, it'd be some sort of Wi-Fi control to it, or maybe a long cable. Who knows? Either way, this is where they're controlled. As you can see, 3 MFDs and another HOSAS system similar to what the pilots and other operatives of the ship will be using. Again, who would run the drone station though? Can anyone do it? Or would you have to have a qualification? Would it be the engineer? I would imagine it's probably the engineer, who's going to be very busy because he's the one repairing the drones. So why not allow that person to then operate the drones, right? If he knows how to fix them, then he knows how not to break them, would be my theory on how that would work as the crew sort of layout and job roles would entitle them to do so. I think the engineer probably stands out the most to operate these. So if you've got someone in your crew that is particularly space nerdy and a bit of a brain box, you should probably assign that guy to that role, I would have thought. But again, look, just all these steel cables, caution, step ahead, all this stuff that when you take the time to look, it's awesome, the level of detail. This will be a busy area of the ship, I have no doubt. I can't wait for drones to arrive in the game. I think the Carrack is going to be a whole new animal when the drones arrive. That is for absolute sure. Okay, so we've exited the drone bay and we've headed towards the scout bay. This is what we get. Ahead you will see a window, that is the scout bay, and in front of that is the console, which allows you to open and close the hangar doors, which is nice, so you don't have to go anywhere else to do it. We have the service ladder, of course, that we discovered in the very bottom of the ship, and we can get to pretty much everywhere with that ladder. So again, I think it's very useful and nice to have that on board. So here we have the doors opening. Off flies your Pisces, or I'm personally will probably take an Aurora LN because it fits, it's got a bed for someone to log out of rather than the Pisces. With a few modifications, I think the Aurora LN will be an excellent addition to this scout bay. So that is probably what I would park in there. Anyway, adjacent we have two corridors that flank left and right of the scout bay, and it has a pretty cool view in there, so you can walk down this corridor. It's nice and spacey as well, allowing people to traverse each other without tripping each other up for whatever reason, and also managing components and stuff, carrying that around the ship from the scout bay. If the scout ship needs repairing for any reason, these nice wide corridors are certainly going to help you do that. There is a nice set around of the scout bay of windows that you can get a good view in, see what's going on, all that good stuff. And you'll notice that the windows are heavily weathered because they get exposed, obviously, and again, another nice touch that I felt should be shown. Around the back of the scout bay then, we have the hangar bay door and another door to our right. And again, plenty of room to move components, maybe repair the ship, maybe bringing in casualties from the scout ship. It's going to be important to have that space to maneuver the crew around without causing any sort of unnecessary clutter and mayhem and clumsiness. So outside then, in the scout bay, it's not massive, it's nicely lit. Again, we can fit a few ships in here, not many, but my pick at the moment would certainly be the Aurora LN, because I just think with that bed on the Aurora, it will complement the Carrack very well, in my opinion. So yeah, again, this is a huge selling point for most people to have a scout hangar, not to mention the awesome rover bay and a medical station. So this ship really is capable of doing many tasks and fulfilling many sort of job roles within the verse, and this is no exception. The scout bay is a very much welcome addition to the Anvil Carrack. Moving on, we have the door on the right and a door that takes us through to another area, but what we'll do first is, of course, we'll take the door on the right, which takes us straight down to this area, which is the location of the turret. Now, first impressions, dark and dingy, but glistening in red light. Again, giving you that sensation that if you're walking down this corridor, something's gone wrong. You're going down here for an emergency reason. maybe you're in hostile territory and you need to get to the turret, it puts your mindset in a combat ready state, would be my sort of take home feeling from this particular long corridor into this ball turret. Now the ball turrets look incredible, as we can see here. They kind of look like mini drones themselves, or even, dare I say it, the front of a TIE fighter. You know, they look really, really cool, and believe it or not, they are so maneuverable, like the ones on the Hammerhead, that these two turrets, one flanking each side of the ship of course, have enough maneuverability to actually point towards the front of the ship. So if there is something in front of the ship, you do have a chance of getting rounds on target from way back on the sort of winglets of the Carrack itself, which is quite impressive. And they do pack a punch, obviously, because they're size 4s. And they just look awesome. Very spacious. Very sort of sci-fi. I do enjoy the turrets. I do think they are some of the best turrets in the game, that match that of the Hammerhead. And on the way back, you see the sort of red lights all behind you now. So you've come out of combat, you've killed everyone to death, you feel like a hero, and now we're faced with all the white lights as opposed to the red. Okay, so we've gone through the main doors now, and we are now approaching the heart, the beating heart of the ship, the engineering area, where you will find the power plants, the components, the gravity ball, and all of that, the gravity generator, sorry, the gravity ball. Well, technically it is a ball. So we take the door on the left, and here we have like an engineering station, I want to call it, or an overlooking bay. Hanging from the ceiling is of course that monstrous, and it is monstrous, gravity ball generator there, keeping everyone from floating all over the place. It does look amazing, and that window looking down into the sort of engine area of the ship, again, nice touch. That does give a sense of authority. I do think that the engineer on this ship is going to be the most important person on this ship. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be one engineer. I just feel like this is going to be the most important role of this ship. My question is, though, when looking at the gravity generator itself, how do we repair that if it breaks during a mission? Because it seems to be clad in some sort of steel encasement. Good question. If you have the answer or solution, by all means, please let me know down below. So here we have this is my favourite area of the ship, without a doubt, because it just feels immersive, right? Look at the steam bellowing from those round cylindrical Mahusive engines, right? It just looks incredible. It feels immersive. Like, yeah, I honestly think that being an engineer is going to be the best thing ever on this ship. You're constantly just going to be working on everything all the time, because it's such a big ship. It's going to need a lot of maintenance, but just blown away by the fact that that sort of steam and the vibe you get when you're in here, it's just incredible. It's a great place to work. I can see a lot of role playing happening on this ship. I think a lot of small orgs and large orgs, if they man it with humans, are going to have an absolute blast on this ship. But it is an astounding area to be in, as far as I'm concerned. Probably the most detailed area of the ship, I would say, as well. Now, as you can see, there is a ladder as well, which will be extremely useful. There is an elevator that takes us to a lower deck of the engineering area, and I think it would be quite important to have this here for numerous reasons. Let's pretend that the engine area has been hit and the elevator has been knocked out of commission. So how do you get downstairs to repair certain aspects of the ship? Well, we've got that ladder. Could be useful for pulling components up, pulling components down, tools, all that sort of good stuff. So I do think that's a clever thing to have in the ship, I will say that. Let's always have 2 access points to the engine area in case there's damage throughout the ship or in certain areas that restricts access. So we're going to need multiple routes, right, to get in and around to do our job, if we are the engineer on board this ship. So this is the lower deck, and as you can see, again, extremely immersive and leaking fluid. Now, I never noticed that on the first time round, and I didn't notice it the second time round, and I didn't notice it the third time round until I got distracted by the steam coming out the vents, which just looks incredible, and that red tint to it. Then I realised that my engineer is definitely getting sacked, because how long has this leak been going on? Look at this. So this is clearly some sort of, I'm hoping, not a fuel pipe and just a basic H2O leak, because if that's a fuel leak, I'd be quite worried, but I don't think it is. But again, just little things like that they put in that you just don't notice. You just sort of run around the ship, have a look, you don't really pay attention, you miss these tiny minute details that I just think deserve a little bit of limelight, let's say. Okay, so the other end we have the various component access areas. Okay, so we have life support, radar, and all the other good stuff that we're going to need to repair during our voyages, and they do seem very easily accessed. There's plenty of room here because these are going to be big components, right? So it's important to have easy access. Located by the elevator, we have these two doors, and through here are some more interesting components, but mainly it's where the fuel tanks are located, which is important that they're sealed and have their own independent rooms, I think, just to avoid any sort of unnecessary explosions. Having that contained is smart. This is sort of they're identical, the rooms, so we have this big yellow component here. I have no idea what that is. If you know, let me know in the comments. I honestly don't know what that could be. Couldn't see any labelling, but we do have the fuel tank there, unless that is the fuel tank itself, which would surprise me. But yeah, so this is where the fuel tanks are stored, and obviously engineer access only. Again, the engineer responsible for a hell of a lot on this ship. And behind the ladder, of course, was this component neatly tucked away. So that was a nice touch that I stumbled on because I didn't notice it the first time round. Right, so what we've done now is made our way all the way back to the main elevator, which was located on the subdeck, and we've taken it up to the cartography deck. So this is essentially the brains of the ship. This is where we're going to be planning everything in intricate detail, coordinating with other ships in more detail, perhaps finding, locating, pinpointing those jump points. We have the two doors here leading to different areas behind the cartography suite in front of us, but almost certainly the brains of the ship. As we go through one of the doors, you can see that we have two more areas to store armor and undersuits, which we will need when we're up this high, because we can actually exit the ship via this route. There is, of course, a escape pod on the right, so anyone up here does have the option to get the hell out if things go badly. We follow the corridors around. They're identical on each side. We're brought to this window that brings us right to the top of the ship, overlooking the top of the scout bay hangar doors, and we can exit the ship through these doors and EVA. This is going to be useful, especially for repairing the ship if it's taken any damage and we need to get to the top and we're in space. We can EVA out of these doors with the relevant tools and begin fixing what might be broken. And there are some lights out here which surprised me, actually. I wasn't expecting to see lights out here. I'm glad they're there, because if it does take damage, it will be nice in the darkness of space to be able to see what we're trying to repair. So maybe the scout bay doors have taken damage, maybe your pilot has accidentally crashed into them and caused some damage that needs fixing. So all very important and very useful. Even fixing things like the turret and things of that nature. This is all going to come into play, and it will be epic in my opinion. So very well thought out. This brings us to, like I said, the brains of the ship. This will be very important in terms of coordination, finding jump points, marking things to sell to data runners. So this is where I would bring the crew to brief everybody so everyone can see exactly what's going on, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for, how long it might take to do whatever we're doing, you know, planning exactly how long the expedition could last, marking on the map things we've discovered, where we're taking them to, are we delivering things. So very important area of the ship, certainly an area that I would bring the crew to be briefed so that everyone, because it's very big, the image that you can see, right, so that everyone is all very clued up on what's happening with the ship and why it is going to transform in that manner. So, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty hungry, so let's go grab a burger, get out of the ship, and then we'll discuss the components. Yes, I ate the wrapper. Don't judge me. Okay, take a seat. Let's discuss some of the stock components that you get with the Carrack, and then of course we'll discuss the weapons, and we will talk about the jump drive and all of that good old-fashioned space nerd stuff. So to kick things off, we'll go to the loadout manager. We will scroll down. We will find Carrack. Click on it. Okay. So everything here is stock. I haven't changed anything at all. I don't see the need to. It's pretty tanky already. Quantum drive is extremely fuel efficient, this ship. Okay, so as you can see, we get 2 coolers, and they are both size 3, grade 2, grade B industrial ice flush coolers. So again, pretty big. I've had no issue with them at all. When it comes to the power plant, we get 1, and it is a Reliance size 3, grade 2 industrial power plant, and it needs to be a big power plant because there is a lot of functions and things on this ship that require quite a substantial amount of well, power, obviously. Then we have the quantum drive, which is a Karma, which is a size 3, grade 3 industrial. Now this ship, being an explorer and expedition, needs to travel vast distances, and it is extremely fuel efficient. So that is a massive tick in any explorer's box, right? I've had no issue or need to change it. It takes a little bit of a while to get around, but what's the rush? So then we have the 2 shield generators, which are Barbican, size 3, grade 2 industrial. Again, I could swap these out for the FR86s, but to be honest, I don't really want to go looking for combat in the Carrack by myself, you know. Maybe when we take this into a hostile environment, I will consider upgrading certain aspects of the ship, but as it stands in Stanton, I have absolutely no need to do so. So there are the stock components for you if you were wondering what it gets. In terms of weaponry, every single weapon here is a size 4 Klaus and Werner Rhino repeater, size 4, grade 1. If you're familiar with the Connie, which I'm almost certain you are, these are effective and very cool fast firing weapons, and as they're mounted on turrets, they are absolutely devastating. I have felt no need whatsoever to change these. I think some people will change them to suit whatever particular role they want the ship to fulfill, but me personally, I think they are just fine. We also get 1 size 3 radar, 3 size 2 computers. We do get a jump drive, of course, and 2 size 3 fuel tanks, 2 size 5 fuel intakes, so that is all very good news. Okay guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a physical walk around the ship to get a feel of immersion and sense of scale. We will also use this opportunity to begin some of the theory craft. So as you can see, the Carrack is a bit of a monster. And I remember the first time I saw this ship, my jaw hit the floor because it is massive. So here we have one of the turrets, and it does look like its own purpose-built fighter with a gear leg strapped to the bottom. It does look very cool. It is, of course, a tricycle landing gear, and it is just huge, this ship. The outside is just covered in rivets and flashing lights, and it's just awesome, this ship. The first time you walk around it, it really does sort of strike you just how massive this thing is. So here we have the rear underneath ball turret with good visibility in and around the ship, and it needs to, as the pilot has zero access to weapons, so you do rely on your crew to be ready to get into a fight should things go south. So again, size 4 rhinos here. I've had no need to change them at all. They are potent enough, combined with all the other turrets and the buff that they recently had. I think it was at 314, possibly 315 maybe. The turrets will do significant damage. So there's a lot of detail here. There's lots of struts. You can see all the sort of steel poles and hydraulics holding the landing gear up. Now, I do have one complaint with this ship. Landing it at night time can be tricky, okay, because we only get the front lights. I would like to see some sort of landing lights located on the belly of the beast itself, just to help land and being able to see where I'm landing. Is it stable, that sort of area? So that is my only real complaint with the exterior of the ship. As you can see, we have the 3 cargo modules there, which in the future are going to open up a ton of different game loops. It's all going to be very interesting. As we move around to the front of the ship, we come to sort of this pointy glass, armoured glass, I believe. There's like a titanium shell. In an emergency, we'll cover that, because my initial concerns were that if anything was to strike that glass, obviously that could be devastating for the rest of the ship, with all the oxygen being sucked out of it. Here we have the ramp, and of course the manoeuvring thrusters that are quite prominent with this. They seem to be surrounded their own sort of grey and black paint scheme, but a very pointy nose, again with the 2 split bridge configuration there. Very cool, very cool. So apart from the lights and the fact that there's only one way into the ship externally, I don't really have any issues apart from those 2. It would be nice to have an elevator that could take crew in and out other than just the ramp. But as you can see, it's just an absolutely whopping ship. We're on Microtech today, one of my favourite places to be. It's just a beautiful planet. Yeah, so we're going to make our way towards the rear. As we can see, we've got the other turret location, and of course some more manoeuvring thrusters. You'll notice that there are the windows, and then underneath the windows we have the docking collar, which is going to be useful for space station and ship-to-ship docking when we get that. Ship-to-ship docking will be really cool, because I think we could possibly, could we dock to broken down ships or abandoned ships and use the drones to strip said ships? Yes, I would like to think so. So all this sort of stuff is going to come into play, and it's going to be amazing. So like I said, we have the excellent turrets. Definitely some of my favourites in the game. That and the Hammerhead. I think the Carrack and the Hammerhead definitely have the best turrets in the game. I don't think many people will dispute that. But they do look like their own mini spaceships that have been slapped to the side of another ship. They just look awesome. Really cool. We have the red accents running down the ship as well, on the winglets and down the chassis, the main chassis of the ship itself. It's a nice touch. Otherwise it'd look, although it's a military vessel through and through, and then modified and sort of downgraded for civilian use, I think a little bit of colour helps, you know, give it a little bit more character, because red does seem to be a prominent feature throughout the ship. As we've seen, there is a lot of red lighting everywhere on this vessel. If we move around the rear, we can see we have these massive thrusters. where most of your propulsion is going to be generated. Big ship requires big power plant, requires big power exhaust manifolds, and they do the trick absolutely fine. So overall, massive exterior, a few niggles. Landing lights I think are required. An extra access point would have been nice, but you can live with it. So let's now maneuver ourselves around to the front of the ship, where we can open up the ramp and begin our physical tour of this absolute monster. Look at the hydraulic slots on the landing gear and everything. All the bolts, nuts and bolts holding it together. Okay, so the ramp opens up. The lip extends. And on board we go. And we're going to run in there because I'm only wearing an undersuit and I'm freezing my jib lids off. So off we go. Into the rover bay. And we'll close that door just in case someone decides to cause us grief. What a view. It's not a bad view, is it? It's pretty slow to respond, the ramp. So just beware of that. Don't double click it because you'll end up reversing of what trying to counteract exactly what you're doing, you know. Just click it once. Anyway, right, so as you can see, plenty of room in here for at least 2 rovers, maybe for 3 or 4 tumbrel cyclones, and then we approach. This door is the service ladder, which again, reiterating how important and nice it is to have this for all manner of reasons. To have a backup access point for all of the crew is going to be crucial in its future survival. So very nice, very simple, but well thought out design for the ship. Okay, arriving back into the rover bay, you'll notice the various cargo sort of nets that are going to keep your various cargo elements strapped and safe and secure. And we also have this ramp, which is designed to stop vehicles from moving in transit and hitting the cargo door. But I like to think of it as, let's pretend we've landed on a planet for the first time. We don't know where it is, we don't know what's on the planet. We open the ramp. Let's have our marines here if we've got a contingent of marines on board. This acts as a nice little bit of cover. I personally would probably have an LMG gunner in the middle and 2 snipers flanking that, so that we have all types of fire. Suppression fire, followed with 2 snipers, just to scout right in the distance, and then maybe roll out a rover with a contingent of marines. I think that would be really super cool. So it kind of doubles up as like a bulletproof barrier, I think, so that's pretty cool. I like that. So designed to stop vehicles rolling into this door. However, I think it would just be an excellent sort of cover system for a contingent of marines or security personnel, whoever it might be. Okay, so on the right we have the docking collar. We go in, we have our armor suits stowage and our undersuit stowage, and of course the docking collar directly on R12. So again, these are going to be useful for quick access in and out the ship when we're in space and don't rely on gravity to pull us to our death. And we go outside. We can jump out here, but I wouldn't advise it as we're quite high up already. So that is very cool. And greeted by the beautiful planet that is Microtech. Okay, simple in function, but effective and a nice touch. Again, very well thought out. Here we have the elevator that we'll call. And you can see it takes us to the subdeck, habitation deck, and the technical deck, not the cartography deck. Then we arrive at the cargo areas of the modules. Now, there are elevators here, and I've had some ideas. So there's a lot of talk about science lab, repair labs, vehicle bays, all that sort of stuff. But I was thinking, how about turning the Carrack into a mobile prison ship? Now, think Cutlass Blue and the holding cells. I reckon we could get 6 of those in here per module. And this ship could easily become like a prison transport ship. or even a medical hospital with the same format, just replace the cells for beds. Because you'll notice there's no way up or down from that platform except for that elevator. So if we're hauling convicts, for example, maybe we've caught a load of bounties on our travels and we need to deliver them to the relevant court system. This could be an excellent way of doing that and making a few quid in the process, I think. So that was a sort of thing that dawned on me, just the lack of ability to get up and out of this cargo area. Maybe we could utilise that for captured bounties and make it a huge bounty ship. Kind of piqued my interest with that sort of versatility we'll get. I can imagine having security guards walking this catwalk, keeping an eye on the prisoners, you know. That was just something that popped into mind. Now we know that we can change these pods out for various tasks. What the Carrack gets is still unknown, but I imagine maybe a farming, medical, like I said, repair stations, all manner of things with its modularity is definitely going to help in future-proofing this ship and increasing its potential by quite a drastic amount. So moving through then, we get to the sort of weapons locker, again with more armor storage. Remember, this is military by design, and so good addition. Again, we could probably turn this ship into a fighting expedition ship. We could put some sort of fighting vehicles in the rover bay, maybe, you know. I wonder if the Spartan would fit in with a contingent of Marines. I think that's viable. I think that's cool. So here we are at the turret. We'll jump in. Again, very similar to the Valkyrie. And this one takes us below the ship. And even in the turret, we still have plenty of ground clearance. Again, maybe a Spartan full of a contingent of Marines. This turret could be put to use putting down covering fire. It is roomy in here. You do have access to the 3 MFDs. It's, yeah, plenty of room. Visibility is very good. And 2 size 4 rhinos is going to be devastating. So, possibly, we could lay down covering fire from the ball turret underneath the ship, which would be really cool. So that could possibly be something else that we could look at using the Carrack. Very interesting. And we'll go through the other door, just so you can see they're very much symmetrical. And it brings us back to the main elevator, which we shall now embark on. Okay, let's step in, and the first place we'll go is, of course, habitation. Okay. So here is the very large, roomy back of the medical bay. Again, I can't stress the importance of having plenty of space to maneuver around the ship without tripping over people. It's going to be a busy area of the ship if people are getting injured or you've been involved in some sort of battle. You'll notice that these are frosted glass windows for patient privacy. Again, very nice touch. So we'll go through. And we arrive at the medical bay, and it screams medical. Look at the 4 white lights brightly indicating what you are looking at. Very important, very crisp, very clear, no confusion. So through here we have the other corridor that they came through. So sense of direction is pretty good, and then that's all the crew quarters and all that good stuff that we'll come on to shortly. So let's enter the medical bay then. Straight into the decontamination area, which again I can't stress the importance of that. And in we go. Doctor, I've broken my leg. Hop in the bed. But yeah, very, very nicely lit. Great place to be. Everything's very clear where everything should be. There's no confusion. So we can hold 3 patients at the same time. which is half the crew. So let's just hope that we never get into a situation where we get more than that. Now let's take a look in the doctor's office. So we come in, 2 seats as previously mentioned, plenty of O2 tanks again. 2 monitors, I imagine are going to show the status of the patient. We have some server access here as well. But yeah, this is a nice office. I think the chief medical officer or the doctor is going to be happy to work in here, or if there's 2 of them, or a nurse perhaps. Again, I can see a lot of roleplay being done in this ship because it offers so much to us, you know. Very important that we have monitoring equipment for the patient, I think. And plenty to do in here. Whether these microscopes will work or not is beyond me. I'm convinced that is a smartphone. I know it's a display, but I bet you that's like an iPhone 1. So we have some overhead storage, waste disposal, what looks like to be a basic drinks machine, doctor's notes with a smiley face because morale. Yeah, very well thought out again, that the doctors are able to overlook the critical patient in the middle. Then we come to this storage room where we talked about, are we going to be able to store fauna, plants, maybe small insects, alien life forms, bacteria, who knows. It does seem to be well organised in here to an extent. But another microscope, a Microtech microscope, plenty of gloves. We don't at the moment have access to these storage units, which is unfortunate. We have a dolly trolley and of course the all-important O2 oxygen tanks. And then just some sort of clutter, maybe medical notes, things of that nature. I'm not really sure. But that storage cabinet does look like it can hold life, so I imagine it's pretty sterile in there. Then we'll go through and take a look at the arguably the most important aspect of the ship for the long distance journeys, and that is of course our ability to regenerate and select this as our spawn point. Again, this is going to be super useful, especially for our designated scout pilot. If something was to happen to him or her and they crashed or died or the ship malfunctions or all manner of things, at least we can get them back without them having to travel thousands and thousands of miles. We have another display here. I guess this would be in the future displaying vitals of the patient, possibly. So quite a few monitors and opportunities to monitor, treat the wounded, which is going to be useful. So let's hop in it so we can see the animation. So we get in and this screen will rise, and then this screen should fold down, and then we have all the same options that we just saw in that side monitor. So medical care, regeneration and admin are our 3 options. Let's now hop out. So again, I do think this is a huge selling point, and it will be extremely useful for traversing not just 1 or 2 systems, but leapfrogging from one to the other using all the various jump points. We could be millions of miles away from any sort of medical care. I cannot stress the importance of having a medbay on the ship. Okay, so let's leave the medbay and make our way towards habitation. We have the elevator that takes us to the subdeck by the cargo area. We won't go in it because we've just come from there, but again, very handy, and it is the fastest way to the bridge from the subdeck. So we have the mess hall. Let's go in here first. When we arrive in the mess hall, we have this beautiful window with this beautiful view outside the ships, and this gives the crew a sense of orientation and something to look at while chowing down on bowls of chow, I guess. So it is a fantastic view, and I think the crew would appreciate that, you know, especially on those long distance voyages. That would certainly be a positive. We have some random panel here, not entirely sure what that does, but we do get what would appear to be an oven, a basic kitchenette area, shelving, kitchen tools, storage bins that I don't think we can get into, horrible, uncomfortable chairs. As I say, that sofa in the crew quarters is by far the most comfortable seat on this ship. But love the light on this table, and it does very much have that alien vibe to it. I would expect to see Lieutenant Ripley knocking around somewhere, or Lieutenant, depending on what army you joined. Yeah, I can't see these seats being comfortable. I wouldn't want to sit in this for too long. Look, I mean, it's really cramped. They're bolted to the floor, which kind of forces your posture onto the table. We have a bowl of chow there. We have the... I imagine that's going to be a TV, right? Not everyone wants to see, on their time off when they're eating, just, you know, constant information about the ship. I think that would drive me up the wall, to be fair, and most people. Let's get some interdimensional cable going. Yeah, let's get some Rick and Morty going up in here, please. And then, yeah, bright light, nice set of stairs, kind of wakes you up from a nice heavy meal. You know, wake up, it's time to go to work. That's the kind of vibe I get from that bright white light. So let's go through here and head back towards the crew quarters recreation area. So we have the toilet located there on the right. Again, another nice window. Space pool. And a coffee cup that drives me up just insane. And you know that one of your crew members is just a lazy bastard that didn't want to do it. He's a slob. That's the guy. He's the one that just leaves things around with no coasters. Son of a bitch. So yeah, that cup irritates me beyond belief. But again, we do have 2 monitors here. Again, I wish these were just one big TV. You know, I don't want constant information from the ship all the time, especially in the crew area. And we do have a vapor on board, it would seem. We do have an ashtray, another coffee cup, which at least it isn't on the pool table. And then someone's reading the issue of Hitbox. New plight model, out of control. Okay. No idea what that refers to, in all honesty. But again, what a view outside the ship, just to give that crew a sense of orientation and avoid the sense of overwhelming claustrophobia. Moving into the bunk area of the ship then, so we have 2 double stacked bunk beds. The lighting is a little bit more timid in here, a little bit more chill, which it should be. I haven't noticed any light switches because I imagine when people want to sleep, they're not going to want all of these lights on. There could be one. I didn't think to look, in all honesty. We do get storage bins or lockers for everyone here, where they can store their clothes and various personal items. And then again, the amazing sofa that you know that you want to lay on that right now. Yeah, you do. Don't even deny it, because I almost certainly would prefer to sleep on that sofa than the bunks that we have right now. But when you zoom in, you can see the individual tears, so to speak, in the leather. The sort of crinkles, which is a very, very nice touch. Now, I did notice there are a fair few monitors in here. We have the ladder for easy access, of course. So the top bunks seem to have one monitor that they can watch directly while lying on their back, and then one at the foot of the bed, which seems a little bit overkill. Not everybody's going to be sleeping at the same time, so I imagine if there was some sort of emergency, you'd have alarms and God knows what else going on. Yet another monitor, some more lockers, little post-it note, no touch. Okay, I think that might be sort of air conditioning unit, maybe? If I had to hazard a guess, I'm not entirely sure. And then this individual will get his own sort of bed with, of course, another TV. He has a set of binos, so he or she is very keen on space bird watching. Another monitor for this individual as well, and a New York postcard, which is interesting. through we go then to take a look at the showers. Okay, so in we go, very nicely lit again, nice and bright. Sort of rouse from your sleep, come in here, sort your life out, wakes you up a little bit because of the brightness. Plenty of toiletries. Not entirely sure what that is, but it's in a jar, so okay. Then we have life support item for emergencies, in case someone slips, I imagine. Luckily we've got a medical facility on board. These things will happen. And then we have 2 showers. Yeah, I can't see people taking... I think 2's enough. I was just contemplating whether I think 2 would be enough, even for a crew of 12. Because I always double the crew, right? Because someone has to sleep at some time. And with 6 crew, let's say 2 people are sleeping, that's leaving 4 people to man it. Which I don't feel comfortable with that. We have sort of air conditioning above the showers there. So not too much to talk about. I mean, it is a shower after all. Let's head back out of the monitor dripping crew quarters. And let's now take a look at the toilets. I'm glad they're separated. I think that was a smart decision to have the toilet and showers completely separated. No one would want to mix the two, right? Some shelves in here. And I don't notice any sort of storage lockers in here either. Why would there be? But there is cleaning products which you would want to see for hygiene. And when that mechanic comes, I think it will affect how NPCs interact with you. So if your hygiene is poor, obviously that could reflect quite badly on you. You don't want to be the space tramp, you know. You want to be relatively clean. So yeah, that's the toilet. I'm happy that it's on the complete other side of the crew quarters. I think that was a smart decision. Now let's head out and head towards the captain's quarters, which is just located in front of the bridge here. So we'll walk up this corridor, we'll swing a left, and we'll step into arguably one of the most comfortable areas in the ship. Again, nice, bright, easy to see out of window for the captain. Now, as captain, I would spend probably at least 70% of my time, because it would appear that we've got all the tools necessary in order to coordinate with the crew without physically having to overwatch everybody. Now, I thought this seat would slide out, but when you get in it, it doesn't actually move, but that does look like a mechanical thing. Anyway, so as I was saying, I would think I would be able to direct my crew and give orders via all the systems that I have at my disposal here, right? So we've got plenty of sort of monitors again, so there shouldn't be any reason for me to leave here all too often. Obviously, I should, as captain, be able to direct the crew and have information on where we're going, what's happening, getting a live feed as to where the ship is, and making directions and alterations, all from here, because it is, in my view, the most comfortable place on this ship. And if we are travelling billions and millions of miles across various systems, then as captain, I reserve my right to be a recluse and direct everyone from here. I don't see any reason why that would be an issue. So that's just something to think about. That's how I would operate personally. Hopefully the crew would be well trained. So private quarters, captain gets his own lie down, log out bed, of course. Every crew member does, which is a nice aspect, so we can all log out and jump back in when it works. And if it works, hopefully that does. Please make that mechanic work, because it would make life so much easier. Okay, we get storage bin in here. It's sort of wardrobe that won't open. And again, just monitors everywhere. I kind of don't mind these two, so that when the captain wakes up, he can just sort of open his eyeballs and see what's going on regarding the ship. Does seem to have his own air conditioning in here, so all very cool indeed. Toilet located on the left, shower on the right. Yep, can't complain. So for me personally, best place in the ship to be as captain. Very functional, and it is going to be easier to sort of bark orders at people via all the comms and stuff built into that desk. This is almost certainly where I would spend most of my time, I think. So, captain's office, cozy, certainly more comfortable than other areas. Okay, let's now exit, make our way to the bridge. Now, as we enter the large bottom deck of the bridge, we do have the area for blades, I'm assuming. I think this is the area for blades. Let me know in the comments. I'm pretty sure it is. Very basic down here. I would personally probably have my pilot, a co-pilot. I think I would have the flight engineer here to save the hassle of going up and down to get to various areas of the ship when we're in transit. In case there was some sort of accident, we have panels and access points all over the place. So coordination on how you're going to utilize your crew will be down to you ultimately, but I think, me personally, I would have the flight engineer down here on one of these seats. Avionics thing pops up, it's empty. This possibly could be the blade installation area, I think. Again, I'm not too sure, please let me know. And we have other panels here, so I would have the pilot, a co-pilot, and the flight engineer here, purely for the convenience of the engineer running around during a battle, etc. He's going to need to be up and around, and maybe I'd have the chief medical officer upstairs, although you could argue if there's an emergency. So you are going to have to play around with your sort of crew format and how you decide to implement your orientation of your crew, which will be important, I think. So in the seat, as you can see, the view is absolutely fine. Just got the 4 nose struts here that aren't really all that intrusive to the eye. Got plenty of MFDs with all the usual information required to operate the ship. So we'll jump out. Yeah, so it's a tough one. Who would you have in this bridge? Let's imagine that you got the 6-man crew. Okay, it's either the doctor, the chief medical officer, or the engineer. Tricky. Or maybe both of them down here and put the co-pilot upstairs in the command seat. That could work. Radar component, empty at the moment, but of course we will get that. Very large component by the size look of things. It does appear that will be quite a chunky monkey, and it refuses to close. Okay, never mind. Let's go to the upper deck now. Now, I know maneuvering around the ship on this elevator isn't going to take a lot of time, but still, flight engineer, doctor downstairs, pilot in the middle, maybe co-pilot. Then we have the dedicated gunner seat on the right, a nav operator on the left, I'm going to say, to plot the course, etc. And maybe the co-pilot at the command station. I think that's probably, now that I think about it, the way I would operate the ship, with a 6-man crew. However, I would like to have a 12-man crew where possible. Maybe 6 human players and 6 NPCs is the way to go, so that we can all play together in a session, and then when we all log out, NPCs just sort of maintain the ship for us until our eventual return. I think is pretty smart. This station we're in right now is going to have to be manned, especially if we're traversing areas and systems we've never been to before. We don't know what we're going to run into. We're going to need access to defensive systems just on the chance that we bump into someone that isn't particularly friendly, doesn't want us here, thinks we're invading personal territory, or for whatever reason. This would almost certainly be a very important area of the ship because it's easier to get to than the other turrets. Again, we are limited by our 6-man human crew, basically. Unless, of course, the blades can take control of the turrets, but they're not going to be as effective. So we'll wait and see how that all unfolds, for sure. So this hollow table, let's call it for now, I think is excellent. Again, being on the upper deck of the bridge, the command center, if you will. Maybe the captain can be here overseeing everything while the crew are working and figuring out your next course of action as captain. Maybe you've had to make some course adjustments, or you've bumped into a salvage operation, or I don't know, the possibilities are endless with the things that we could bump into in the future. So as I said, you can operate the ship from this position. Maybe the co-pilot, I would have him stationed here. I think this is where I would have him stationed, and he can fly the ship, but we don't get access to MFDs, but we do have that screen down there that does work. So overall, it's a good sort of joint driver system that the ship has installed, and gives us more options when we bump into unexpected obstacles, I guess. Very immersive area of the ship, the bridge, and you would expect it to be, right? So that is the top deck. Let's now, that view is just, wow. Love that planet. Love this planet so much. Microtech is amazing. Right, let's move through. Okay. So, escape pods. Critical. Should anything go wrong. With any luck, the bridge stays intact and everyone can get out. And we go through here. And this is the engineer station, which is obviously going to be important. Again, I honestly feel like if I'm not the captain, then I think I would want to be the engineer, because there's going to be a lot of stuff for you to do. Firstly, fix that pissing sparking leak, please. And, there's going to be plenty to do on this ship for you. As the engineer, you're going to be busy maintaining everything. We have a fairly respectable workbench, not as big as I thought it would be. If we're trying to work on components, I'm sure that's going to be a struggle. Maybe we could put them in here, maybe? This is Anvil Repair. It doesn't seem to open. Now, at first glance, I didn't really notice. There seems to be a sort of repair laser there, or the equivalent. So this area is going to be very, very useful for the engineer. He or she is going to be very busy on board fulfilling that role. And let's take a look in the drone room. Now this is going to be very interesting when we eventually get this. So we have 2 drone operator seats using the HOSAS system to steer the drones. Now this looks relatively complex on how it's going to operate. So I've had some sort of theories as to what drones we could use. Now I would like to see salvage drones, repair drones. We know we're going to get those. What about rescue drones? The ability to, maybe someone's floating in space for whatever reason, and we don't want to maneuver the ship too close to them because 1, we could melt them, and 2, it might catapult them throughout the system, especially if we don't have like our scout ship with us at the time. Now it does look fairly intricate in here. I think the drones will be stored in here and deployed through this particular pod, right? So the question is, how will this load? So it would seem that we have a opening at the top, hence the massive sort of pistons here, and then these would appear to be, I'm going to say, suction cups that lift and lower the drones into said launch pods, and we probably load and unload the drones that way, because there was some cables on the floor there as well, which I think would charge them up, power them up, whatever they need to do to operate. Drones on this ship will be a deal breaker for many people, and it will increase the productivity of this ship tenfold. If we can have even 2 of those drones, will make a huge impact on the things we'll be able to do in certain scenarios with the Carrack. So very exciting. I am looking forward to drones and seeing how they're going to pan out. I think there's a lot of potential there. We could even use the drones to repair the scout ship, right? If the scout ship comes back damaged, we can repair it and then safely land it. Like I said, we could rescue people floating in space. Maybe we could send the drones out to salvage broken wrecks we've come across, or there's just so many possibilities we could do. I think it could only take 2 drones at the minute from what I've seen, but yeah, I'm very excited to see that. So that was the hangar, the scout bay we just took a look at while I was rambling on about the drones and the excitement that I have for them. So I just feel like, God, give me the drones now, you know, and then give us the modules for this ship, because the ability to mix and match and tailor the ship is essentially what we will be doing for whatever chosen career path you might have in the verse. I think is epic, and I think that's also a reason why people are drawn to this ship. It's not just the med bay and the scout bay and the awesome rover bay. It's a combination of how we can mix and match to utilize the full potential of the Carrack, especially given its pedigree and history. I think it's pretty cool. So here we are on the scout bay. As you can see, it's not the biggest, which is by no means a negative for this ship, right? I have the Odyssey. I'm very much looking forward to it, but I just feel that there are aspects to this ship that I will miss in the Odyssey. So we'll see how that pans out, but I think the Odyssey, in my opinion, is a much better looking ship than the Carrack. The Odyssey just looks amazing in my eyes. By all means disagree, but that's what makes this game great, because we all have our own personal opinions. Okay, so that's the scout hangar. Let's now move. We'll go left. We'll take a left and we'll go through this door, and then we'll go through to the starboard turret. Now again, in an emergency, this corridor really is going to add to the immersion with the colours, because you know when you get to the end that things are going badly, that you've had to run here or scramble to this seat to get in and protect your beloved Carrack. So in we get, doors shut, seat rotates, turret pops out, and look at that view. That is not a bad view at all, is it? Rotation is excellent, visibility is excellent. We've got the 3 MFDs at the top, radar, basic functions. We can see our shields, and we do, as I said previously, get a nice angle, a convergence of the 2 turrets, so we can actually kill things to death from the front, because running away bravely is not really an option in this ship, I would have thought, depending on what we're getting attacked by. But the rotation, the angle and the view is just excellent, and certainly probably my favourite turrets in the game on the Carrack. I love the ball aspect of this turret. It does remind me of B-24s, B-17s, and those poor bastards that had to be the ball turret gunner in World War II. But very, very cool. And from the outside, they do look like mini TIE fighters strapped to the side of the ship. So very cool indeed. Okay, let's get out and say goodbye to that glorious view. So I can just see this ship, because I've seen images as well of this ship with the lights when it goes into battle stations. All the red beacon lights are flashing, and it's just really going to add to the immersion when we're getting attacked. Everyone's scrambling to their various positions. It's going to be amazing. This ship really will be a absolute joy to have in your fleet when we get to a position where we can utilize all of its full potential. So here we have the gravity ball generator. I was thrown by the encasement, and it did raise questions for me, like how are we going to repair this if this gets damaged? If it physically gets damaged, it's encased in a ball of armor. So that did intrigue me. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. Because I think it will be quite tricky to repair that. You know, it's hanging from the ceiling. It's suspended in a very tight, narrow area of the ship. Connected by, obviously, quite some powerful cables. With, I imagine, a lot of volts and whatnot running through it. But how would we... I just don't see a way to repair it. Maybe I've missed something. I don't think I have. But if I have, if you've got any theories, by all means, you know what the comments box is for. Okay. By far my favourite area of the ship, this is. Just for the pure visual stimulation that it gives you, right? It feels industrial. It feels like an important area of the ship. Its lighting is sort of timid. And I think that's by design, to make that immersion factor higher, right? Ideally, you want everything bright white so you could see what you're working on, but no, they've gone for the immersion factor. And do you know what? I don't mind, because I enjoy it. Plenty of room here to operate, repair things, maneuver around. Let's just pop down to the next level. Because the only other concern I've got... Now, we know that they're working on fire. I've noticed the lack of fire extinguishers on board. I'm glad that these fuel tanks are sealed. That's smart. But there aren't many fire extinguishers, or maybe there's sprinklers I've missed. I think there's a few sprinklers throughout the ship, or the equivalent, right? Because every ship, when fire comes in, is going to have the ability to combat fire. And a ship this size, I think that would be very important to deal with quickly. Well, in any ship, but a multi-crew ship, even more so. Which means we're probably going to have to learn fire drills like you would on a modern warship. So these are things that have sort of popped into my mind as well. We have the components, as previously mentioned. Nice and easy to get to. Plenty of room to pull those out. Maybe use dolly trolleys or gurneys or the equivalent to get components in and out. Now, transporting them from here to the repair bay for the engineer, I imagine is going to be a feat within itself, because I can't see these particular components fitting on that desk. So I imagine he's going to have to bring a hefty toolbox with him to fix these. So that could be an issue. We'll see how that plays out. That would be very interesting, I think. But it's just the promise that this ship gives you when you're in it. The things you're going to be able to do. It's going to be incredible. And here we have some rusted pipes. Worn and torn. Proven. There's the trusty leak. That would be the first thing on my agenda as captain. Or engineer. I'm quite happy to play engineer and be a space nerd, you know. So it's just the potential this ship has to offer us. What can we do with it? Possibilities are quite literally endless. I can't wait to get into scenarios where we have to work together as a team, as a crew. We've been together on a voyage for thousands of millions of miles, and we've been through thick and thin, and this happened, and then this happened, and then, you know, it's gonna be a ultimate adventure. And this is a monster of a component hidden behind a ladder, which is a nice touch. Nicely tucked away. First time through the ship, completely missed it, didn't see it. Quantum drive there, and everything's just screams industrial in here, doesn't it? Even the details you'll notice on the railings, there's little red lights for that extra effect of importance. And then we move towards where we all started. So there's the elevator, and what a fantastic place to work, I think. Right, let's move on then. So that's the port turret. We don't need to check that one out for time's sake, because this video is already way too long. Way too long, but you told me to bring it, so I brought it. Let's head back to the main elevator, because we need to get there in order to reach the cartography deck. And it is nice travelling through this ship. You really do feel like you're contributing to something. And I can only imagine it's going to get better when you have your own crew, especially if you play with a small group of friends or you're in an org. I think this is going to be a great ship to roleplay on. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to be untapped with this ship. Even the floor lights are amazing. You know, the whole thing is just so well designed. Right, let's get in this elevator then. To cartography. And I got lost in an elevator. Yep, that happened. Okay, so here we are. Love the look of that. And if you look closely, you see all this sort of steam flying around it to give it an extra bit of awe as you exit the elevator. I like that. It's a good touch. So we'll go through this door here. Escape pod on the right. Very important for anyone that's up here. Again, nice window giving the crew access to light and the ability to see if there's any damage to the ship for when we need to EVA. Armor and undersuit. So who would I send out the airlock then, out of the crew? Let's pretend I'm captain. Well, if it's to do repairs, then it's Mr. Engineer. Again, I think probably the most important role on the ship, apart from captain. Co-pilot. I think the co-pilot is going to have to earn his AUEC or UEC, depending on where we are in time. Co-pilot, I think, is pretty lackluster in what he needs to do. I'd have to find him medial tasks. I think this would be perfect to get him to be the EVA specialist. Dedicated specialist on board to do all EVA and outside repairs, trained by the engineer. As you can see, a great place to be, even if the door is unfortunately having a little bit of a hissy fit. So we'll just pretend that that didn't happen, because we've made it this far without any bugs. So we will allow one or two, because it's only right. And then let's wrap this long video by heading to the cartography area, back the way we came, just to show you that it's symmetrical, just opposites. Escape pod behind me, great window. We're at the rear landing gear, we can see there. Again, beautiful microtech. And into the brains of the ship. So there we go, guys. That was my long, in-depth video on the Anvil Carrack, a place that I think is going to be special for many people, and a ship which will undoubtedly get better like a fine wine over time as the game progresses and moves into a more stable, reliable, larger environment. This ship will just be absolutely incredible. There's lots of fun to be had on this ship, plenty of role-playing opportunities. You know, I just honestly think that this ship will be superb. It is quite pricey. I believe the pledge price is around $600. But as you can see, you are pretty much future-proofing yourself drastically in the future with what this ship will be able to do. I look forward to the drones. I look forward to the medical gameplay. There's so much to explore with this ship. Jump point searching, data selling, all of that good stuff will be achieved with the mighty Anvil Carrack. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the video was long. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what buttons to press, and I will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location soon. Thanks guys, take care, cheers.
My father always used to say I had wanderer's legs. We all wonder, what's out there? But for me, it was more than that. A stranger in my own world, I set out to find my path. Through all my travels, through all the trials of the unknown, I came to realize that there was really only one thing I'd been looking for.